On the first glance, the question, what is pain, seems kind of obvious and stupid. But as I asked myself this question, I honestly couldn't give an exact answer, so I had a closer look on the biochemical origin of pain. In the first part of the video, I will tell you what pain is, and in the second part of the video, I will tell you how painkillers work. Pain is defined as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage. And in this context, it is important to mention that pain is not only physical, but can also be psychological. That means mental or emotional. Both types share similar neurological mechanisms, so they can be felt sometimes with the same level of discomfort. And regarding psychological pain, the involvement of other parts of the brain is known as well. But in today's video, I will focus on the physical pain. There are basically three types of pain. We differentiate between nociceptive pain, that's like the classical pain via mechanical force, for example, inflammatory pain, for example back or neck pain, and neuropathic pain. This is the pain which is caused via damages of the nervous system itself. But I will focus on the nociceptive one. We have pain receptors, so-called nociceptors, which are located all over the body, in the skin, muscles, bones, joints, internal organs, etc., as free nerve endings. Nociceptors are specialized nerve cells which are activated via temperature, chemical and mechanical stimuli, and in comparison to normal nerve cells, they have a much higher threshold which needs to be exceeded. So let's make this a bit clearer. We have this sharp object, right? And usually when we would touch our skin normally, we would realize that there is a sharp object, but we would not experience this as pain. And only if I would press harder, I would reach deeper tissue and activate the nociceptors, and this would lead to pain. If I would press even deeper, I would damage the cells and stimulate them to release signals which would attract the immune system. The cells of the immune system then in turn release cytokines which lead to an inflammatory reaction. The inflammation reduces the nociceptive threshold, and that's why when you burn yourself, for example, even a slight touch would hurt. A damaged cell also releases other molecules, amongst other things a fatty acid called arachidonic acid, and activates the cyclooxygenase pathway. Arachidonic acid can be converted into prostaglandins, which lead to inflammations and work as ligands for the nociceptors. The attachment of the ligand results in an electric signal and action potential, which leads to a calcium influx. This in turn releases neurotransmitters which then bind to the postsynaptic receptors and the signal is transduced. The signal travels through the spinal cord into the brain where it is processed. So pain is basically the reaction of specialized nerve cells, the so-called nociceptors, to different stimuli which lead to neuronal signaling. With all that knowledge, we can now talk how painkillers work. From aspirin, ibuprofen or morphines, various painkillers are used nowadays depending on the type and intensity of the pain. We can distinguish between so-called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like for example aspirin or ibuprofen, paracetamol, and opioids like for example codeine or morphine. I already told you about the prostaglandins and that their binding to nociceptors leads to pain. Ibuprofen and aspirin use exactly this pathway. They bind to the active centers of the enzymes COX-1 and COX-2 and therefore inhibit the production of prostaglandins out of the arachidonic acid. As arachidonic acid can't bind to the enzymes anymore as the center is occupied, the nociceptors do not have any prostaglandins anymore which they can react to. So the stop of the prostaglandin production leads to reduced inflammation and also reduced pain. Regarding paracetamol, until now only suggestions could be made as the mechanism is not fully understood. But it is suggested that they work similar like the NSAIDs. Opioids like Tramadol or the well-known morphine bind to specific opioid receptors which are located especially in the central nervous system. The binding of opioids to their specific receptors leads to the inhibition or blockage of neuronal signaling and therefore to pain reduction. In comparison to the other two painkillers, they do not work anti-inflammatory, as they do not inhibit the production of the prostaglandins. All in all, the aim of painkillers is always to reduce or block neuronal signaling. Alright guys, I hope this video was informative. Make sure to like and subscribe. Take care and see you next time.